Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of The Agency Way, a Room 214 weekly blab series to help marketers learn from subject matter experts within a marketing agency and also from guest thought leaders in business and marketing worldwide. Today, Room 214's Erica Stutzman is my co-host, which I'm very excited about, signed on here as The Agency Way. I'm Jason Cormier. I'm the co-founder of Room 214, a digital and social media marketing agency. Our guest on the show today is Katy Shea, who is a marketing automation leader. She's helped global B2B teams drive leads and sales for over a decade. Katy's been on the cutting edge of what's more commonly known these days as demand generation. She has a rich history leveraging enterprise marketing software platforms such as Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce. Katy has also created and delivered marketing and sales strategies for companies like Cisco, HP, Hitachi, the list goes on. Katy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I know there's so much we could talk about, and I know we're limited to 20 minutes, and who knows, maybe we'll go a little over today. But just to get us started, when we talk about marketing automation, it's been most closely associated with software like Marketo and HubSpot. I know automation covers a large field, but really marketing automation is probably most known by that. And that the purpose of those platforms are to help companies do marketing better. There's really two core areas of why marketing automation works. And those areas relate to what's called lead scoring and lead nurturing. Why don't you start by sharing with our audience more about what these two things are and how they work together?
Sure. So for those who may not be completely in the know about marketing automation software, so this is software that allows us to track engagement with our clients online. So those who are visiting our website and those who are opening our emails and clicking through and downloading information that we send them. So with that kind of insight, that allows us to kind of see, well, basically to start a digital conversation with people who are already our customers or who are our potential customers. So with that kind of insight to their activity, we can now see which web pages they look at the most, which topics they might be more interested in. For example, if you have a whole line of products or solutions, you can see which of those solutions they're most looking at and engaging with in terms of the content that they view, the content they download, the webinars they might sign up for, or even the banner ads that you might have in other digital outlets, kind of social watering holes, if you will. Those kind of locations will also have areas where we can track information about what they're clicking on, what they're interested in, and give them more information to download. So with that in mind, we want to give a value or basically a point system value to each of those activities so that we can see when a customer or prospect is getting to the point where they might be ready to buy. So just because somebody attends a webinar doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to buy today, buy your printer solution or your biotech machine, but it does show interest, right? So we want to go through and put a value system together of, what is an email click through valued at? Is it 2 points? Is it 5 points, etc.? Is opening an email 2 points, 5 points, 10 points? Is attending an event even greater? So usually something like attending a webinar or attending an event is worth something more like 10 or 20 points. So it's an iterative score that we put together. It's an algorithm or a model that we build that's relative to your business. And so we start out with a model that we think will work. We put together, all of the different activities that somebody can go through when they engage with our content. And then we let that system run within the marketing automation system. And we let that algorithm build up. And basically those numbers will show us, the higher they get, those leads that are more ready to buy than others. The leads that don't build their score up will actually be those people who are really sort of kicking the tires, browsing around for solutions, and maybe not ready to quite buy yet. So when we see that somebody has hit what we think is a lead score that sales and marketing have both agreed, yes, that's somebody who's probably ready to buy, we send that over to sales. And sales will take that lead and then start working it from their perspective. So that's the lead score side of things. The lead nurture side of things is typically something that happens after we see true engagement. So whether they attended that event or they downloaded something from your website or from one of our banner ads, they can actually receive information that allows them to opt into future communications with us. So that's a really key point to nurturing, is that we want to make sure that we get true opt-in from somebody who says, yes, I do agree to get future communications from your organization. And if you can show them what the value to them will be, it's usually not a big deal. But we want to make sure we capture that for CAN-SPAM issues. And then we go ahead and start nurturing them, usually with email. So email is the primary form of nurture. I would say marketing typically would look to email as that first point of nurture, but really nurture can encompass all of the marketing activities that we use to kind of bring somebody to the point of purchase readiness, if that makes sense.
Yeah. At what point do you pick up the phone?
Very good question. So, how many times have you in the past had somebody send emails to you and you download this really cool infographic or watch a really awesome video, and then you get a sales call about a half hour later? And sometimes I've even heard of, the salespeople say, hey, I saw that you watched our video. Are you interested in talking more about our, entertainment systems? And really, we're not ready to pick up the phone typically until sales gets handed off the lead. So that's one way, when that lead score gets tallied up to the point where it's a true hot lead. But sometimes there's what we call a fast track, and sometimes people will say, you know what, I've been seeing these emails from a certain company over a series of time, and I'm really ready to start talking to them about my specific needs. And that's called a fast track. So we always want to give somebody a chance to kind of call in or push a button and request that phone call, basically.
Cool. Well, that actually brings me perfectly to the next question, which is a lot of companies have invested in software to manage their lead scoring and their nurturing, and they find immediate challenges between their marketing and sales sides and how those teams will work together. So what do you do about the challenges and solutions related to that?
To marketing and sales?
Yeah.
I think that, so the biggest blocks I see in marketing and sales collaboration is really communication. It all just boils down to communication. So ideally, in any organization, it makes sense for marketing and sales to work together for a better outcome. But historically, it hasn't really functioned that way for a variety of reasons. Today, I think with marketing automation, it brings marketing into more of a sales mindset in terms of thinking about leads over the life, basically through the life cycle of a lead. So as a lead comes into the system and how you have to work them, work a new customer into the point of interest and then to the point of purchase. So I think with the communication needs between sales and marketing are that sales would like marketing to bring more great leads to them so they can make more money for the company and for themselves, right? But marketing would like feedback from the sales team to say, hey, this is what customers are talking about and saying, or hey, that program wasn't really great. It didn't bring a lot of great leads to us. But that conversation just rarely happens. So what I like to do is a way to kind of start to bridge that gap is to just get a small group of salespeople together and start letting them know, it's usually started from the marketing side of things. Marketing can go to sales and say, hey, you guys want to get together? We have a better approach that we want to try that will help bring you guys better leads, and let's talk about what that looks like. And so we'll talk through some ideas of what are some strategic campaigns that we think will generate more leads and more interest. They can weigh in, give feedback, give ideas, and then we go run the campaigns and then bring them the leads. And we start basically on sort of a model of, this is a pilot approach. Let's let these couple of people, salespeople get started with it, watch them gain success, and then we'll roll it out broader to other sales folks. But ideally, when sales and marketing start to say, hey, what do we want to say a true definition is for a marketing qualified lead, and they both work on it together and document that, that's the start of a new relationship where things are going to work a lot better together. So you both agree on what is a marketing qualified lead, what are the stages that a lead will go through when they're in the marketing demand funnel, and then what do they go through in the sales pipeline funnel. And then when both those teams are saying, oh yeah, that does make sense, and this is our full funnel view, and these are the stages, this is what it looks like, then we can start to go sort of toward a common goal that will allow us to say, okay, now here is what a marketing qualified lead looks like. I'm only going to send those over to you based on our new technology that lets us do that. Send it over to you, and now if you guys can let me know what happens with those leads from there, even if they suck, I want to know that, because then that will allow me to optimize and make them better when we go forward. So it's pretty exciting when it all starts to work together.
Katy, I totally appreciate what you're saying here, because I feel like, any one of us that have looked at or have considered a marketing automation solution, what happens is we do all the research, right? We find companies like HubSpot and Marketo, and we get into this huge research phase where we're looking at features and benefits, and we're comparing one against the other. We get buy-in, we make the investment, we buy the software, and we get to this point where it's like, oh, whew, we bought the software, we can check that off our list, and now it's time to, get leads and get more business. Woo-hoo. And we think that because we've made that investment, it's going to happen now, right? And I think what we've seen in our own experience is that companies can buy the software, take a lot of work to get there, do some of the fundamental things in terms of setting it up, but then over the course of a year even, they might not be up and running very well. And oftentimes the result is they end up using this relatively expensive marketing automation software as an email platform. At the end of the day, they should have just gone out and got MailChimp or something, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So, it's just interesting to hear, what you're talking about is really more about salespeople aligning with marketing people, and how the business actually has to change in order for this software to work effectively.
Yes. So. Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, I think, sometimes people will buy, this is sort of an analogy I've used for a while, but sometimes they'll buy the software, the automation software, and it's sort of like this spaceship with all the bells and whistles, but then they drive it just like they've always driven, their Hyundai or their Ford or whatever. And so they don't drive it with all the fancy bells and whistles. So it's like driving your spaceship down New York streets and run it into the buildings and everything, when in reality, you kind of need to know how to fly the new spaceship. And then it's not really just about running the software. It's really about thinking differently. It's about working with different functional groups in a new way. And it's about tracking things based on data that we're just not used to. So it's just kind of a new mindset that we have to adapt to.
So my understanding of lead generation is obviously, the advertising, the top of funnel activity that brings leads into the door. But then there's demand generation. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what that is, and just for the purpose of, providing value for our audience, what are the trends in demand generation? What should companies know in terms of the future?
Yeah. So when I first discovered marketing automation, I'm already a metrics-based type of person. So I just hit the ceiling with excitement and joy, because I'm really basically a nerd, is what that boils down to. But I just loved it. I think that a lot of people who are looking at marketing automation today have a lot more choices. There's a lot more that are designed, a lot more software platforms that are designed for smaller companies versus enterprise level companies. You kind of need to consider that. Some of them are more expensive than others, and some are easier to use than others. But the functionality, I think, right now is starting to really sharpen on a few of them. And so that's a good thing to look at, just in relation to your business needs, if you're deciding, which platform is best for you. But in overall for demand gen, I think there were three things that I think are kind of the key trends right now. One is dynamic content is really driving everything, because it's so important to make sure that your message is really delivering to the customer in a way that they can accept it amidst all the different messages that they see on a daily basis. So the content is number one trend, how we build that and how we deliver it. Two would be predictive analytics. So predictive is about using historical data to predict future outcomes. And so in relation to marketing automation, that's using software that's becoming more sophisticated today in a way that allows us to say if these type of buyers typically are the ones who buy from us and have purchased from us in the past, let's look for those type of buyers in the future across our own house list or in other, venues to try to pull them in and drive them to purchase, knowing that everybody isn't always looking for the solution that they need today. And then the third one I think we had was metrics. So metrics, I can't say this enough, metrics is so great in terms of the marketing automation and the CRM platform, the sales platforms that we have right now. We have Google Analytics, we have the predictive analytics software. We just have so many different tactics and software applications that can come together to build one full marketing program. And then when it's time to kind of look at the health of your program, as the team who is implementing that program and looking for ways to optimize, we need to look at those analytics on a daily basis and real time, so we can make adjustments as we go. Management wants to always see, kind of how is your program going? How is that investment that we made in that big ass program? And we want to give it to them in a way that shows visuals that they can easily just take results from away quickly. So there isn't really a software or anything right now that shows us that one digital dashboard where everything kind of comes together at once. And I think the entire industry has been working, the marketing and sales industry has been working on that for many years. And there are some, approaches that have come close. But really what we want to do is make sure that we're looking at those metrics on a regular basis so that we can see what's working and what's not. If that color of button is not working on a certain ad offering or an email, we want to be able to move that quickly. If a call to action isn't working, we want to be able to move that quickly. Or if we've had feedback even from the sales team that says, hey, this message is killing it, let's try using that in our ads or on our banner ads, then let's try that. And we have the ability to do that now, so we need to take advantage of it. So metrics is really important. I think, so going back a little bit to content, I think content is important. We're seeing that a lot of people are still having a little bit of trouble. A lot of companies have trouble sort of getting their minds around writing for the customer. So they're still trying to, and it's important to adapt to your brand voice and your brand nomenclature, etc. But it's really important to also create messaging that will speak to your audience in a way that makes them want to act. So we want to find out what they're interested in, what are the industry issues that they're trying to solve on a daily basis, which role do they play, and that will differentiate what kind of messages you would want to send to somebody who's in an individual contributor role versus somebody who's in a management role or somebody who's in a financial gatekeeper role. And so when you understand those differences, then your content starts to shift a little bit, and you want to make sure that it's as on target as possible so that you can really get that engagement and action from your customers as much as possible. The last piece I would say about content is, Room 214 knows this the best, is the storytelling part of creating content is some of the most, some of the most efficient way, is an efficient way, I guess I should say, to get people to remember your story and to sort of feel like they're a part of it and sort of generate that emotion that gets them to act. So you guys do those whiteboard scribes, so a video scribe, where you sort of bring somebody the idea or a concept and walk them through a very simple visual that helps to tell the story as well as using a voiceover. I love that. I mean, that really makes the difference in how somebody will look at your email and think, oh, I really want to see more about what that topic is, especially if you've written it for that customer in that role and in that industry. So also looking at, where they are in the buying cycle is important. So I think the storytelling approach really pulls that emotional and the functional part of the decision making together. And you can write it in a way that will address those who are sort of just thinking about buying something new, those who are looking at their different options, and then those who are ready to purchase.
Sure. I know we're bumping up against our 20-minute time, so I know that I'm going to have Erica jump into the segue pretty quickly here. But before we do that, just in terms of the practical and tactical, I know that contacts, a list of contacts, are essential to a good marketing automation program. And so people are always like, where do we get the contacts? And where what about the record? What information do we have about the contacts? Give me the Glengarry leads. So maybe you can talk a little bit about contacts and what should we know?
Yes. Leads, typically in the past, we'll go in and look at house lists that somebody already has, that these are the people that have always bought from us. These are the people who are opting into our emails, etc. So I just want to go and pummel them with emails every day of the week, all day long. And 20 mails a week is okay for my customers to get. And that's actually not true. No. Please don't do that.
Don't do that.
But don't ever. But what we're finding is that lead gen can be defined in a lot of different ways. I find semantics, but lead gen is trying to find those people who are out in the webosphere, in the internet world, either looking for fun things or looking for business related content. And they can stumble upon a banner ad from our organization that really relates to something that they would want to see from a professional point of view, if you're talking about B2B. So ideally, those are the kind of leads that we want to pull into a contact record for ourselves. So we want to pull them into a list that way. So those are going to be leads that are more likely to kind of come into your program, opt in, be somebody who sticks with the nurture, engages with your content, and then ultimately buys. The people that are on the rented lists, that are on the purchase list, are really very rarely somebody who opts in beyond maybe the first cool piece of content that you show them. If you follow that lead and track their activity beyond that, it's typically something that you sort of forced. The beauty of those that you find in lead gen activities is that those people were already out there looking for either a solution for their need, or they just stumbled upon something that you sort of disrupted their thinking, and they realize now, hey, the status quo is not going to be cool anymore. I need to try this new thing. I didn't know this was happening in my industry, and now I want to try that. So obviously, anything that you can capture somebody in their actual mode of buying is going to give you better reaction than somebody who's sort of on a dead list that you have to drum up and force and twist their arms to buy and pay attention to you. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. Katy, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Absolutely. Erica, I'd love for you to close us out today with the final three.
Yeah, you bet. So the book recommendation of the week is Change How You See Everything. It's not a new book, but it's about asset-based thinking, and it's a way to sort of change the way that you think about your approach to business and to life in a more positive way. And I've studied it. It only takes 40 minutes to read it from start to finish. So if you just want a little refresher course on how to think positively, it's a good one to do. The nonprofit shout out of the week is Have a Heart for Homeless Pets Telethon, which is going on today. It's for the Dumb Friends League. They help find homes for homeless and abused pets, and they do a really good job. If they have a furry scurry race coming up in May, if you'd like to check it out, it's ddfl.org. And the quote of the week is provided by Katy. It's by Robert Keith Levitt, who's an author. And he said, and this does go to business, but it definitely gets to the heart of politics as well, which I know we're all in the thick of right now. People don't ask for facts in making up their minds. They would rather have one good, soul-satisfying emotion than a dozen facts. So thanks, Katy.
Nice. Love it. That's right. We all make decisions based on our emotions ultimately, right? Well, thanks everyone so much for joining us today. As a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at room_214. You can also subscribe to our email newsletter by going to room214.com/blog. Our weekly series continues every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. On behalf of everyone at Room 214, thank you for joining us for another episode of The Agency Way.
Thank you. Thanks, Katy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.